Hello and welcome to the space between ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. We're just going to do our regular thing. So we're going to do two things today. The first thing is the Project Arrowhead questions. There's 5 questions in Project Arrowhead for the brainstorming session, and we started a habit of going through one question a day, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So today's Friday, and we've been working. We started this on Monday, and I think that's what it's about, really. When you go to a meeting, you're talking to your people. Sometimes you have something specific that you want to talk about. This goes back to the idea that Stephen Covey introduced called sharpening the saw. The story goes that there's two guys trying to cut down a tree. One guy is just sawing, sawing, and sawing and sawing. The other guy, every so often, he would stop and sharpen the saw. And the other guy would laugh at him. Look, you're just sitting around doing nothing. What do you think's going to happen? I'm going to easily chop this tree down faster than you. And and the guy who was sawing and sawing and sawing and sawing, he got ahead. He was like almost halfway done when the guy starts sharpening his saw the second time he starts sharpening his saw. He's like, "Look, you were already behind me the first time. Now I'm like at the halfway mark and like I'm just blowing past you so easily." He said, "Okay, no problem." Then the guy who's sawing and sawing and sawing, he gets about 3/4 done, and suddenly his saw is just it's not sawing as quickly, it's not working, it just and he doesn't really even notice it because he's just working so hard, and he just thinks, "Oh, if I just work harder, maybe it'll just, you know, maybe I'll be able to just." And the guy who sharpened his saw, he's still going at a regular pace, and soon he catches up to the 3/4 mark, and then the other guy who keeps sawing and sawing and sawing. He's like, "Oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? This guy saw. I don't know how is it possible? How is it possible?" And then the guy who sharpened his saw fells the tree. If you don't sharpen the saw, you might never be able to cut the tree down because eventually, if your saw is not sharp, it's just like you can't cut yourself with your finger because it's a blunt object. It's a soft, blunt object. You have to sharpen. You have to have the tools. Anyways, so these questions, sharpening the saw in business, it means to sit down and reevaluate your objectives and reevaluate the path for achieving those objectives. And that's really what it's all about. My whole system is about sharpening the saw, and it's about asking those questions that can help you to make sure you're going in the right direction. Now, as you know, I'm working on this project for a really long time. You can go and see videos back when I was in Belarus, back in 2021, where I'm just like trying to explain Tom's book, Create Crucial Insight. And you can just tell that I'm just like struggling to try to understand it. And like 5 years of working with people until I have something that I think is useful. Well, then the issue is okay, so if it's so useful, why don't you use it yourself? And then I was like, okay, it's a good point. It's a very good point. So that's what this week is about. It's like use your own tools in your own project and see if you can get some like if sharpening the saw is going to get you to a better system of productivity, a better system of making money. I mean, there's a guy in Canada, his name's Kevin O'Leary, and I saw his Instagram post recently, and he's singing the song "Cack and Roas, Cack and Roas." Dun, dun, da-da-da-da-da-dun, dun, da-dun. So he says the customer acquisition cost is CAC and return on what is it? What's ROAS? I think it's return on ad spending or something like yeah, return on ad spending. Exactly. So the customer acquisition cost, it just means like how much does it cost to acquire a customer? And this is now what I'm thinking about. And ROAS is return on advertising spending. So it means how much money am I spending in advertising? And based on the amount of money that I'm spending in advertising, how many new customers do I get that are going to actually spend money? And then over the lifetime of those customers, how much are they spending? And then how much am I paying to get one customer? Because nowadays you have to, I guess it's pay to play. You gotta pay for advertising to get your customers. Well, before you can start paying for customers, you have to have something that customers are gonna wanna buy. All right, so today we're in day number 4. Or no, day number 5. So let's take a look first at the website. to see. No, let's jump into Gemini. Today we ended off. Let me just make sure that you can hear it and when I share my screen. Sometimes when I share my screen, people can't see it. Oh, it's just give me 30 seconds. View your channel. Click this button. Audio. Perfect. Okay, so I just asked Google Gemini this morning. I said, I'm actually answering text. What is this? I'm actually answering text. I shouldn't say answering, entering. I'm actually entering text into the application. So I just need one paragraph that explains the things that we talked about on Thursday. And then we're going to begin Friday's discussion. All right. So I did this so that we can actually click this button and listen to the audio. I don't know why it never works the first time.
Here is the one-paragraph summary of our Thursday Integrate discussion. Our integrated strategy is a community-first launch, which combines the core SaaS product with a community-driven marketing approach. This involves releasing the current, workable version of the app to a small, private group of 10 to 20 founding users. Instead of just asking for feedback, the founder will act as the first consultant, actively guiding these users through the brainstorm and choose modules for their real-world business challenges. This approach integrates the customer directly into the development process, shortening the feedback loop to zero and turning the first users into co-creators whose success stories become the initial marketing assets. Now, let's begin our Friday session. As we established last week, Friday is step 5 of the brainstorming module. The theme is to play devil's advocate and analyze the competition. The core questions are: 1. Internal focus. How could our own plan fail? What are its critical flaws, hidden assumptions, or potential blockers? 2. External focus. How can we actively slow our competitors down or create a strategic disadvantage for them? Let's apply the first question to the community-first launch plan we just solidified. What are the biggest flaws or risks in that approach? What hidden assumptions are we making that might be wrong?
E. So there's a lot of assumptions even in this one idea. All right. Well, before we jump into this actual thing about Friday session, I agree that you did point out the key issues about the Friday discussion, which is the internal and external focus. Um, Now, if we return back to some of the earlier discussions, then we can kind of think about what were the actual objectives that we talked about. So, for example, well, on Monday, what did we talk about on Monday? We talked about what is the product, what is the core problem. Well, actually, I asked you to take on a role, a specific role. And then when you took on that role, then you started asking questions like, what's the core problem? Like, what specific problem or unmet need are you trying to solve in the world? Who's your target audience? What's the solution? What's the unique value proposition? I thought those were all really good questions. And then we continued to talk. I continued to try to explain what the product is. And then over time, you started to like suggest that Asana, Monday.com, and Reich were potential competitors. And then I tried to explain that no, those are not really competitors. I'm trying to um, target people who are already using those products because, yeah, I mean, it's true that there is an element of my app which would allow people who don't already have a project management um, software to be able to use it as a to-do list app. But the main purpose of the to-do list section for people who already have access to Asana and ClickUp and Monday.com is for them to be able to take the checklist that they've created on my app, on my website, and then to click a button and have it paste into a project in their own product management software. So we have those two situations. And then you realize that actually, because of the nature of my application, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a concept where people are constantly using these questions on a daily basis. so that they can work with their teams and really focus on what matters most. So I think that we already discussed the this issue of like what are we going to do on Monday? Well, on Monday, the questions on Monday, it's about like, okay, so let's say it's Monday, you come back from the weekend and you're meeting with your team, and the whole idea is like imitate and trends. So what we want to know on Monday morning, what are the competitors doing? What are the industry leaders doing? What are the best practices? And so I wrote down we should be looking at how other businesses, methodologies, and strategic frameworks have been successfully productized and sold. Your true competition aren't just software companies, they're authors, consultants, educators who have packaged a way of thinking. And so one element, like we need to have multiple different objectives related to how we're going to achieve this market penetration and get people in business schools and people online and people in companies to start using this methodology so that all around the world there's a huge group of people who on Monday are having a meeting with their team and they're saying, "Hey guys, today's Monday, like there should be like a world culture, a world business culture where every Monday we talk about what are the competitors doing, what are the industry leaders, how are we going to imitate, what's going on, what's trending. Let's get a picture of what's going on right now. And then on Tuesday, you had Tuesday to, I mean, you had Monday to think about what's going on in the world. And now it's time to think about like what's your ideas? What are you going to add to the world? And then you added sections like you talked about the product and offering, you talked about the go to market and marketing, you talked about the business model and revenue model. I thought that was good. You pointed out some very specific areas where we could have endeavors. Then on Wednesday, you said like, listen, you're not going to be able to finish your software project right away, so let's just focus on uh the free app which you already have created and which you're currently using, and then let's figure out how to find 10 passionate users. So it seems like from from ideate to ignore, what you did was you took all of those ideas from ideate, and then from ignore, then you have honed down on like a very specific strategy. And I remember at this point, we actually went to the task list and we wrote down a task that says find first 10 passionate users. Now, the thing is that yeah, finding 10 passionate users is one objective, but also like have some kind of culture, like instilling the culture of using one of these questions each day is also an important part of our system and of our product development and what we're trying to achieve. So then on Thursday, we have this integrate. How can you combine and connect all the previous ideas? Think integration. Now, we didn't actually type anything into that box. So I'm just curious about like, what does that actually mean, integrate? Because you'd have to select specific endeavors. We'd have to decide which of the endeavors that that we talked about at the beginning are on the table for potential endeavors that we're going to pursue. And then within those endeavors, then we can go back and start with trends and imitate. We can go back to Monday discussion with each of those endeavors. So I think that this week, what we want is just a series of several of our primary endeavors. Like maybe getting your first 10 customers is like a worthwhile endeavor. Launching the website is a worthwhile endeavor. Like the question is, what are the actual things that we need to do? We have to do right now. And then in each of those areas, we'll be able to next week on Monday, we can have a discussion with the trends and imitate on Monday question, and then we can start to drill deeper into these endeavors by making sub endeavors. So I don't actually have anything written into the page called integrate. So I think we have to write something into that page. And then that's when we come to today. So we're going to be answering questions like our biggest flaw is, a key assumption that might be wrong is, this could be blocked by, to think internally, and then to slow down competitor X, we could, or we could build a competitive moat by, or a strategic move to create a disadvantage for them is. So thereby identifying potential problems that helps you prepare for them. So we need to figure out like how our other companies how are they going to attack us, or how are they going to get ahead of us, and then also how can we avoid getting attacked, and how do we avoid falling behind? And then how can we make steps to slow down our competitors? So we have quite a few things to discuss, and I just don't know how you're going to organize these thoughts for me. And then because we're going to have to do this each week, and I feel like choose is just making sure that we have our primary objectives identified. And then because next week we're also going to use the choose module, we're going to start using the choose module so that we can try to understand which of the objectives we should be pursuing and why. All right. So, like this week, I feel like it's not really necessary to have all the right answers. This week, we're in the brainstorming module. For the first time, we're developing the habit of using the brainstorming module. Next Monday, we're going to go back to the Monday questions. All right, so it's Friday. Now we can see what their AI has decided how they just to comment based on what we discussed. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking just to hear myself talk. So AI does a good job of just uh,
Of course, it's Friday, and you've done an excellent job recapping our week and thinking about the structure of this process moving forward. You are right that we need to formalize this week's work before moving on. Let's act as the manager of this process. I will help you organize these thoughts into a clear structure that we can use each week. 1. Finalizing Thursday. Integrate. First, let's fill the gap for Thursday's integrate step. Based on our discussion, here is a proposed one-paragraph summary to formally integrate our ideas. Does this capture it correctly for you? Our integrated strategy is to launch the current MVP by creating a community with our first 10 to 20 users. We will act as their first consultant, personally guiding them through the methodology to solve their real business problems. This approach combines product validation with marketing, turning early user success into our foundational case studies and testimonials. 2. Identifying our primary endeavors. Second, you're right that we need to exit this week with a clear list of the primary objectives we've uncovered. These are the high-level endeavors we will analyze and choose from. Based on our conversations, here are the three major ones. Objective 1. Product validation and launch. Secure the first 10 to 20 passionate users for the current MVP to validate the core methodology, gather feedback, and create case studies. Objective 2. Authority and content creation. Begin establishing the methodology's authority by creating and distributing content, e.g., articles, social media posts, that explains the why and how of the 5-day framework, imitating the path of successful authors and consultants. Objective 3. Long-term vision, culture creation. Develop a strategy to embed this 5-day brainstorming framework into the culture of business schools, consultancies, and innovative companies, creating a global standard. 3. Today's task, Friday's devil's advocate. Now, let's tackle today's interfere step. To make this productive, we'll apply the internal and external focus questions to our most immediate goal. Objective 1. Product validation and launch. Let's begin. Internal focus, our flaws and assumptions. Let's answer these questions about our plan to get the first 10 to 20 users. Our biggest flaw is it that you, the founder, have limited time to dedicate to this hands-on approach? A key assumption that might be wrong is, are we assuming managers want this kind of hands-on guidance, or that they have time for it? This could be blocked by, could a lack of a professional-looking landing page deter early users, even if the app works? External focus, competitors and moats. Now, let's think about the competitive landscape for this specific objective. To slow down competitor X, we could. Who is competitor X in this context? It's not Asana. It's likely other consultants, authors, or new tools competing for the attention of innovative managers. We could build a competitive moat by, once a manager learns the 5 questions, what stops them from just using a whiteboard? The moat is likely the community, the structured process, and the ability to save and track progress over time. A strategic move to create a disadvantage for them is, by answering these, we'll have a much clearer picture of the risks and strengths of our primary objective. This will prepare us perfectly for next week, when we will use the Choose module to formally select and commit to our path forward.
Okay. Okay, so I see the what you've done here. And so what I did was I went back to my my website and I put it into the task page. So in the task page, I have the objective one, product validation and launch, objective two, authority and content creation, objective three, long-term vision. So culture creation. So in this regard, what we can do next week is on Monday is we can start to think about, okay, so are these the actual three objectives that we should be pursuing right now? Are there other objectives that we should be pursuing right now? The concept is based on the idea of um, like how do you make a decision about the actual objectives that you're going to pursue? Are there objectives that we're missing? Are there things that we're missing? Are these the actual objectives that we should be pursuing? Is there something else we should be pursuing? How do we go about thinking about what is going on? To what extent are these objectives actually just trends? These are just standard operating procedures. For example, product validation and launch. Okay, so um, you're talking about getting the current MVP out to validate the core methodology. And can we get this thing out? Yeah, definitely. Look, I'm actually using the website right now, so it's possible to use. The Replit app that we created with Replit, it definitely works, and it's technically it's launched. So yeah, we could do that, and then we can continue to work with the software and to develop the software. Also, it's very obvious right now to me, anyways, that windsurf, Replit, it doesn't matter which one you use. They're definitely both having problems when it comes to updating and changing the software for the non-coder. I'm the non-coder. I'm using Google Gemini, and then I'm using a variety of calibration documents so that both you and Windsurf understand the project. And I'm constantly getting problems. And we're just like trying to create new protocols to test the software and to understand how to use the software. But still, when we make changes, we're just constantly having issues. So it means that the software environment for me personally, a non-coder, is nowhere even close to being able to make updates to the software based off of my experience for the last 2 months. So, but we do have the MVP. So, I mean, great, let's launch the MVP. When people give us feedback from the MVP, then it doesn't necessarily mean we can make the changes right away to the software because I'm just a one-man team and we're not quite there yet. With objective two, authority and content creation. Yeah, so I think it's great. The begin establishing some methodology, the methodology's authority by creating and distributing content, articles, social media posts. This explains why and how a 5-day framework. Now, what it seems like what we're talking about here is, well, I have my space between ideas YouTube channel where I am just this is kind of like work. When I go to work, I show people, everyone in the world can see what I actually do, my whole process for and you could see this for years and years. Like I've been showing everything I've learned and everything I've done. I've been doing this for years. So people can really follow this process from the very beginning until where we are right now. Now, if I'm going to launch something called Project Arrowhead, I mean, it seems like perhaps that this could be like a branded account, meaning rather than trying to pivot my this YouTube channel and then just saying to everyone, okay, now this YouTube channel is now going to be Project Arrowhead, and now we're going to talk. It seems like we need to create like a full set of other accounts that would be just managing that brand. Uh, and then the question is, to what extent am I going to be doing that? And then which platforms? And then what's the personas? And then what is the strategy? And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to start right away with one strategy or another. We need to jump back into the regular 5-day brainstorming process to start to think about what are some potential opportunities there. But obviously, my methodology is you have your product, you have your website, and then you have your marketing. And your objective one, you pointed out that that's okay, that's your product. So you have your product. Then it means that, and it's also your, and then the reaching out part. So the question here is like, where are you sending people? Are you sending people to a website? Are you sending people directly to the product? So it looks like we don't necessarily have a, a website in general for the business, but we definitely have a product and we could start deploying messages into the social media space. So, and then the number three is the objective three. It says the long-term vision, the culture creation, develop a strategy to embed this 5-day brainstorming framework into the culture of the business, schools, consultancies, innovation companies, training and global center. Yeah, obviously, well, that's going to be quite the work to figure out how to connect with people in these various industries. Also, to develop a series of educational videos and to help people to understand how they can get started and how to get involved with this project and this culture. So there's a lot of questions around how you would actually do that kind of thing. And I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. I just wanted to mention that I added those to the task list. We have them in our task list. Are those all the objectives that I should be adding to the task list? Are those the only things that we got from this week of thinking? And then when we get back into our next week, then we're going to have an even bigger problem because next week, since we have the only the free version of Project Arrowhead, it means that when we click to brainstorm, it's going to still say the same text as it did last week. And then we're going to want to put new text into the text box. So the question is, well, how do we add to, for example, we could use our Notion or we can use some other method for saving the information. Because we don't have the pro version of the app yet, it means that we cannot save we can't save projects and we can't save the modules and the answers that we get from the modules yet. So we have to come up with some kind of way of hacking the system using what we have now as the website and figuring out how to actually save information, which technically would give any new users would understand clearly that there is a way to use the system without having to pay for the pro version. But then on probably more importantly, it'll show other people how you use the system and how you save things and how things are connected to each other to solidify the process. And in doing so, then we'll have more information when we actually start to put together the pro version and try to improve it so it's a really usable, workable system. All right, let's give this a listen, and then after we're done this, let's jump into windsurf. Let's do a little bit of work with windsurf. I want to test this Sonnet 4, this Claude Sonnet 4, and I also want to introduce I have a new thought about like since I can't copy and paste the text and then text it into Gemini and ask Gemini to work with the information, I could just I can just copy and paste, or I can just ask Claude Sonnet 4 or Google Gemini to work directly inside of the app and to think about. Okay, anyways, let's do this first.
You're looking at the objectives we've defined, considering the real-world constraints, and thinking about the process for next week. Let's organize these thoughts. 1. Are these all the objectives? You asked if these 3 objectives are the only things we got from this week. For 1 week of high-level brainstorming, this is an excellent and comprehensive list. They are not just 3 random tasks, they represent 3 different strategic horizons. Objective 1, validation and launch, is your immediate priority, the next 1 to 3 months. Objective 2, authority and content, is your medium-term strategy, the next 3 to 12 months. Objective 3, culture creation, is your North Star vision, the 1 to 5 year goal. We don't need more high-level objectives right now. The goal of the process is to take these 3, use the choose module to decide where to focus, and then use the brainstorm module again in future weeks to break that chosen objective down into smaller, more manageable sub-endeavors. 2. The data saving problem and the solution. You've identified the most critical tactical issue for our work. Since you're using the free version of your app, we have no way to save our progress week after week. You are absolutely right that solving this problem for ourselves is a valuable exercise. It will help us refine the process and will become a model for how other free users can get the most out of the system. Here is my proposed solution. We will create a Project Arrowhead companion document. Tool. I suggest we use Notion or a simple Google Doc for this. Notion is likely better as it allows for more structured databases and pages, which aligns with your thinking. Structure. This document will be our shared, save file. We can structure it like this. Page 1. The objective list. This will list our 3 primary objectives. Page 2. The weekly log. This page will have a section for each week. Within each week, we'll have 5 headings: Monday, imitate; Tuesday, ideate; Wednesday, ignore; Thursday, integrate; and Friday, interfere. Process. Each day, we'll start by referencing the prompt from your app, and then we'll capture our notes and conclusions in our companion document. This solves the data saving problem and creates a historical record of our decisions. Our plan for next week. Based on this, our path for next week is clear. 1. Monday's first task. Our first action item on Monday will be to create the structure for this companion document. 2. Begin the Choose module. Once our document is ready, we will begin our main task for the week, using the Choose module to analyze our 3 primary objectives and make a formal decision about where to focus our immediate energy. You've correctly identified all the key issues and the path forward. This has been an incredibly productive first week.
It's been an incredibly productive first week. All right, let's jump into the entire screen. Now, I don't know if it's been an incredibly productive week or not. I'm not actually completely satisfied with this answer, um, because, all right, so it's saying validation and launch. Okay, so today is Friday, and it means that on Friday we're supposed to be like answering some very specific questions about like we're supposed to be trying to poke holes into this plan. So you just, with all this confidence, you told me that this is a great plan. We don't think about other objectives. This is the whole purpose of why I'm creating this website, is because of people like you. You think you know best. You think you have the right answer, but you've avoided the whole conversation about how our plan could fail, what are its critical flaws, what are the hidden assumptions, what are the potential blockers, and then we haven't even talked about competition. So it's like you come up with these objectives, and then like you think that like this is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to move forward. It seems that you prioritize making progress, and you're prioritizing progress even when perhaps it might not be the right step forward. So, like next week, rather than thinking about validating and launching the product, um, so for example, you said the objective one is to product validation and launch, secure your first 10 to 20 passionate users for the current MVP to validate the core methodology. Maybe. So there's like a lot of assumptions in that. And is that the right next step? So, like, are there other right next steps? Are there other potential options? And like, if we're going to use the choose module, so for example, let's just briefly go through the choose module. So for the choose module, the first question is what scenarios are being considered? List the different options or paths you're evaluating. And you just told me that you think that the app should just be launched, the MVP should be launched. So is there another scenario which does not launch the MVP? Or, and then we didn't even talk about how we're going to launch the MVP. And then next, it's going to be like, what are the similarities and differences between the scenarios that you're considering? So we can't, it looks like there's nothing to compare and contrast here. So I don't know what to do exactly. I don't have the idea in my mind, but I just feel like um you failed to consider the importance of the principle that we're discussing today. Right. So now with windsurf, excuse me. So I've just clicked on Sonnet 4. Now, for me, Claude 4, it uses two times the amount of credits as for example, this one is, what is this? This is free to use. The Gemini Pro is a 0.75. The 3.7 is a 1. 3.7, this is a 1.25. So this is the Claude 4 is the most expensive model. I don't know if it's the right answer. All right, I'm just wondering if you can hear my voice. And okay, hello, hello. Switch to windsurf. You're taking notes on. Okay, so it looks like you can hear my voice. All right, so I'm a little bit concerned because what happened is we've been working. If you check your plan, then you'll be able to see that we have been working on developing some features inside of the website. For the past several days of working together, you have consistently made a variety of different tests, and then some of those tests have failed. We have something called a sprint plan, and then also you have access to things like the PRD summary, the OMDL summary, the advanced testing workflow philosophy, the users AI collaboration workflow, the Superbase project configuration, the SLAD summary, the Puppeteer debugging strategy, the Arrowhead project management application PRD, the protocol, the principle for prompt purity. What's going on? All right, so it looks like there's a limited to the amount of text it can consider. Okay, so this is the first time that I'm using the audio feature, and also I'm using Claude Sonnet 4. And it looks like a lot of the work that you've done in the past 50 prompts have failed. Some of the work has succeeded, but others have failed. And so that's why I decided to use a smarter model, because I want you to go through all the work that you performed, try to identify critical failures, and provide a report that we can send to our architect to understand how we should move going forward. Should we roll back to an earlier period and start over again, or are we going to continue to work from where we are right now? So first, I want you to suggest how you might go through and figure out what went wrong, and then figure out what would be the best format for a report moving forward for our architect. Okay. So the thing is, I have enough credits inside of Windsurf. Like I won't use all of the credits this month. And so doing a 2.5, like, or using two times the amount of credits for a prompt is not a big problem. Okay, so you're absolutely right to escalate here to this smarter model and request a comprehensive analysis. The diagnostic output reveals several critical failures that need systematic review. Let me first update the plan to reflect this new direction, then provide a structured analysis. Uh, add one, add a new note about the critical system test failures, the need for root cause analysis. The Okay, add the new checklist item to perform a root cause analysis, document critical failures, and prepare a report. Architect update the current goal to reflect the need. Okay, you're absolutely right to escalate this. Let me provide systematic. Okay. E2E test suite for Project Arrowhead has been completely non-functional for the past 50 plus iterations due to the fundamental misunderstanding of Flask development server behavior. The root cause is Flask's normal STDER warning being misinterpreted as fatal errors preventing any test from running. Root cause analysis, primary failure. What actually happens? Flash development server outputs normal warnings to this. Result, premise immediately rejects, the browser never initiates, the tests never run. Technical failures, server management logic flaw, process cleanup issues, handling leaks, race conditions, process failure identified, symptoms and root causes, grounding protocol violation, insufficient domain knowledge, escalating delays. Wow. Option A, modifies server startup logic to only reject it on actual errors, separate standout success detection from warning, estimated time, rollback and restart, revert to the external server management approach, assume service already running externally, estimate to hybrid approach, immediate steps, decision required, domain knowledge, critical understanding class beer was essential. Cause is clearly identified as simple to fix, preserve all existing test logic and structure, minimal risk to introduction to new issues, can be implemented. Okay. Now, first question is, how much of this can I actually copy and paste? We copy, now we scroll up, and okay, everything's can be copied. Good. Now, which one is this? I think this one is the other one. We're looking for free 5. All right, I just wanted to give you a quick update. Basically, what happened is I don't know, I think I want you to review the work that we've done perhaps over like the last couple of weeks, uh, the past 50 prompts. And when you review the past 50 to 100 prompts, the past 50 to 100 prompts, I want you to look at the possibility of starting over again, meaning that we find some previous period where the code was working, and then we go back to that place in the code. The other option is that we use the code that we have right now and we improve upon it, meaning we just go in and take a look at it, we test it, see what's working, what's not working, and then we can just move from what we have now. And I don't know what the better answer is, but I decided that instead of using Google 2.5 inside of Windsurf, I changed it to something called Claude Sonnet 4. It's a new kind of AI, and it uses 2 tokens for every request rather than 1 token. The idea is that it is smarter and it is the best model for coding. So I want you to review the report that it has written and then to provide an exhaustive set of questions that you would be asking Claude Sonnet for in order to help Claude Sonnet 4 evaluate the work that's been done over the last several weeks, and then to provide as much information that you would need in order to prove that Claude Sonnet 4 is right or wrong in its following report. All right. Now, I got an alarm going off because I usually have a French lesson at this time. I got multiple alarms going off, but I got work to do. What is going on? Actually, I'm getting the internet from this phone, so I think maybe I should plug it in. Yeah, my iPad's having a hard time. I've been using the iPad for a couple of years. I think the battery's dying. My iPad. Absolute this wire is not working. I don't know why. I have to unplug it and plug it in every time. Hey, our iPad's getting charged, but not charging. It's not charging. I think it's the wire. Anyways, all right, everything's being charged. Now let's plug our computer back in. Everything's on the fritz these days. I don't know why. It seems like a pain in the butt. All my electronics are falling apart. Luckily, the screen's intact right now, anyways. I don't know how long it's going to last, but at least it's working now. This is an excellent decision. Escalating to a more advanced model when stuck is a complex loop is a key architectural choice. The report you've received is a major breakthrough. My analysis is that the report from is highly credible and most certainly correct. Strongly advise against starting over. The existing code and tests are valuable. The problem is single critical flaw in the test runner setup, maybe. All right. You see the point? The point is that I don't really want to read this stuff. Like, I'll give you some examples. All right. So, what is something that you use? Let's say like a hammer or a saw or a drill. So there's times when, for example, yesterday I fixed my door. Um, one of the hinges snapped, like the where the hinge is connected to the door. One of the hinges snapped, and so I used some epoxy glue to glue the hinge back to the door. And it's not my first time doing it because what happens is I fix it, and then because of the way the door stopper works, if the wind is too strong, then the door uh, blows open, and then it's the point, and it smashes it. And what the heck? Now, yesterday I had a little bit of problems because when I glued the door, I made some small. So you have to put a shimmy, like you have to put a little spacer. Okay, finally they fixed the copy and paste issue. That's good. There's probably a lot of people who were annoyed about that. You have to put a little shimmy between the door because, like, let's say the door's closed, and then at the top hinge, you have like the wall, and then you have the door, and then there's like a small gap between. So the hinge, and then there's the gap, and then you go to the bottom. So at the bottom, the door is actually pushing up against the wall because the hinge is broken. You have to put a shimmy in there. Then you push the hinge back over, put the epoxy glue in there, then you glue it, and then when you remove the shimmy, then the door is, the door works. Okay, this extra piece of work. Analysis is thorough. Path forward is clear. Your plan is correct one. I'm particularly impressed by the minimal experiment. Starting with a low risk diagnostic test to prove the path is okay. Robust challenges. Formats based on your complex report, making a following decision. The plan to fix the E2E test suite is approved. The decision confirmation. The proposed amendments are approved. We'll formally adopt the third-party tool diagnostic protocol 3.6 protocol. The recommendation is proceed. Please proceed by executing. Okay. Now this time when I used the shimmy, it was it's actually thicker. So last time I used the shimmy, it was thinner. And the thing is that if it's thicker, it means that like the latch where the door is latching to the wall. You know, when you turn the handle on a door, that's the latch. And what happened was the door was actually something was stopping it. It was like boom, boom. It was like hitting the wall, and I was like, "Oh no!" At first, I couldn't open the door because the shimmy was too big. It means it was pushing the door too far over, and something was scraping against the wall. So then I had to get a piece of paper. I put it in the between the door and the wall, and just slide it down until it hit something, because I had to figure out what was the actual thing that was hitting against the wall. And I found out it was a screw. So then you can either remove the screw, or what I did, I used this an edge grinder, and I just ground down the screw. So now it works perfectly. Otherwise, what? Because your choices are either grind down the screw a little bit so that you can close the door, or I have to remove the epoxy glue and then I have to re-epoxy it. It was not an option that was very attractive. Right, so we're still using Sonnet 4. I don't know. I just have some magical hope that Sonnet 4 is going to be able to solve the issue. At the end of the day, this is all about developing protocols for the two AI agents to communicate with each other and to be able to communicate with the code base, and then to make changes within the code base that improve the quality of the code, and which what is this? All right, I'm going to send you an image of what I can see in Cascade. Basically, the same thing keeps happening over and over again. And what happens is it's like it tries to run a terminal command, and then it says it's running, but it just always stops. So if I click the button to open it into the terminal, then it moves the associated terminal session into the terminal tab in the IDE, but it doesn't actually mean that we're running it. It seems like there's some kind of bug in the code that when we want to run these tests, it just it just fails. So eventually, I just have to click the stop button. Okay, so I'm going to click the stop button now. And yeah, there's no comments about what happened. So I need you to create a prompt. If you know what's wrong, then I want you to create a prompt to tell Cascade what to do. If you don't know what's wrong, then I want you to ask Cascade to figure out what went wrong and why aren't these terminal commands running, and why do they just say that they're running, and maybe they're running for 30 minutes and nothing actually happens. So we need to figure out why it's doing this. I guess you can still hear me. Hello. Okay, good. You can still see, you can still hear. Now where are we? Is it here? Yes, slowly Google's changing the this little uh icon from the old one to the new one. I know exactly what's wrong. You've correctly identified the symptom. The terminal hangs because the test process is getting stuck. We must try to stop fix this problem. Okay, subject. Getting the plan to reflect a new architectural decision, permanent decoupling of test runner and server management, removal of the server process logic from tests, and addition of documentation for the new workflow, also making the minimal experiment as complete as adding, what? Also marking the minimal experiment as completed and adding the new documentation and code cleanup tasks. Okay. All right. So then the question is like, to what extent do I need to really like? I ran into this problem with the door, meaning when the shimmy was too big, then it created a problem. And then I found out that the screw was actually hitting the wall. So I had to grind down the screw. Now, I didn't ever actually have to do research into like the shimmies, like is this shimmy good enough or is it not good enough? I didn't have to worry about the edge grinder. Grinder was definitely working. Epoxy glue, yeah, the epoxy glue works. The hinge worked. All of the tools that I was using was working, and I also know how to use the tools. And then I used a piece of paper to discover where the issue was, and then solved it. Now, so how is that like the situation that we're facing right now? Yeah, they definitely fixed that. No, they did not fix that. Look at this. I tried to copy all the text and it didn't copy it properly. Or did it? I don't know. I didn't pay attention. I think it didn't. Didn't copy this first section. That's annoying. I can't remember what I was doing. It had something to do with the task page. Right. Now, for this, we're going to turn it back to 2.5 Pro, and then we're going to click that. Takeaway is that we have permanently decoupled the test runner and the server, all server related logic. Now, we can also do this like very specific. I can do a comparison. All right. So what I did was I copied the above text underneath where you've written, please perform the following two steps in order and provide the output for output for each. And I used the Gemini 2.5 model in order to run that command. And I'm going to copy and paste the result from the 2.5 model. And then I'm going to roll back to where I made that post, and I'm going to just like remove or I'm going to add a period or something, and then I'm going to run the exact thing again. And then the second time I run it, I'm going to choose the Claude Sonnet 4. And I want you to compare the first response that we got from Gemini 2.5 Pro and the response that we're getting from the Claude Sonnet 4. And then I want you to make a decision for who made a better choice and who did better work. So be prepared for that. In the next step, I'm going to paste the two results. You see, I don't like this. It's really hard to copy and paste this. Okay, so now we're going to roll back. We're going to revert. Confirm. Change it to Claude 4 Sonnet. And then click write. And then click enter. So it's 100%. It's the same place in the software, the same prompt. And now we're just going to see it. I think this is the perfect test because we're like literally in the middle of a project and we've been working on it. We've been having problems. It's like, this is a really complicated problem. And now we're going to find out who performs better. It's like if I had two dogs. Hey, Gordy, I got an idea. I'm going to get another dog, and then we're going to see which one is a better dog. What do you think, Gordon? I don't think he cares as long as he gets his food. Hey, Gordon D. What are you doing? All right, now as we're waiting for this, We could go back to, all right, we got the Gemini 2.5 Pro. And then we got the Claude Sonnet. Claude Sonnet 4. Eh? Now, it's impossible to know because I'm not a computer guy. So, what we're going to do is rather than look, because we got these bells and whistles, and oh, this happened, and that happened, and this happened, and this is wonderful, and this is great. Yeah, AI is good at like saying crazy stuff like that. The more important is to get the head to head. Okay, step 2. So it stops at step 2. And did we copy all the way to step 2? Yes. Okay, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Enter. Gordon, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. I mean, because all I care about is does the door open and close? That's all I care about. Does the door open and close? And can I do it with the available tools? What are you so happy about? You're not going to be able to fix the door. Gordon's a professional at certain things. After a detailed analysis, both Claude 4 performs significantly better, despite both models ultimately failing to achieve a fully passing test suite. Claude 4, Sonnet 4 successfully moved the project forward by fixing the testing environment, revealing the actual bugs in our application code. Gemini 1.5 Pro, by contrast, became confused, lost context, and ultimately hallucinated a successful result that did not happen. Here's a detailed breakdown. Analysis of Claude 4's performance. Claude approach was that of a determined but slightly flawed engineer. It successfully debugged the testing environment but missed a key clue at the start. Strengths: the proactive grounding. It checked completely lost the context, hallucinated success. Wow. The architect says, Gordon, what are you doing? So it means that we created all of these different protocols for how to give windsurf the best chances for success. And after all those protocols, then we still had problems. Why? Because it's the problem with Gemini 2.5 itself, meaning that it doesn't matter how many protocols we create, it doesn't matter how well we work with these processes to make them try to make them fail safe. What are you doing, Gordon? What are you doing? Why are you ripping this apart with your teeth? Huh? What are you doing? Hmm? Okay. Man, that was a really long time. How many weeks have we been working at this? With it's just failure after failure after failure. And how much of this actually gets copied? It got to that one. Okay. Gordy, what are you doing? I mean, when can we get back to the point where I just copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste? I just want to go back to that day, those days. Gordon, do you want to go back to those days as well? Well, the computer's getting really, really hot. We have used up all of our crisp credits. We're at the 113 mark. Is the audio still working? Testing audio, testing, testing, testing. Okay, good. Let's just finish this task and then take a break. Your self correction and new analysis are perfect. You've successfully navigated a complex series of infrastructure failures and brought the project to a state of clarity. You accepted feedback and correctly identified the initial diagnostic failure. You safely diagnosed the root cause and server errors. You implemented a successful fix. You successfully ran the full. Your analysis of the spot-on testing environment is now stable. Remaining two failures are application logic bugs, not infrastructure problems. We're no longer debugging the process. We're not debugging the product. This is a major victory. The new product bug hunt. Here's the next prompt. I don't know where we are. I just completely lost the context. Which means, on the one hand, my windsurf has become twice as expensive. And then on the other hand, it solved the problem with two prompts. The other prompt, it took like 50 plus prompts, and it never was able to fix the problem. Wow, this is a big day, which hopefully, like, I just want to be able to see the website again at some point. Like, really, the only one I have is this version from Replit, and right now we're trying to make some improvements to this task section. And the whole website is messed up. This is like when you hire somebody, and like if you hire the wrong person, it doesn't matter what they do. It's like always just creating more and more problems. And then in order for you to solve the problems of that employee, you have to create all these new protocols. Like, okay, I want you to do this. Okay, now let's do this. Okay, so before you do this, so it's like a super huge amount of training. Reminds me when I was talking to this sales manager from LG, and he was working in Silicon Valley, and we were talking about like hiring salespeople, and we were using the Buckholz Drive model, which is something we've talked about many times. And so I was asking him, is it better to do this or better to do that or better to do this? And I was like, how do you motivate people who aren't that motivated? And how do you improve the skills of people who don't have enough skills? He says, that's not my problem. I would never, but he's working for LG, so it's a little bit different. He gets to pick from the best of the best. But he basically is like, I'll just pick the best one. Like, why would I hire somebody if I knew that I needed to train them or motivate them? Because I want people who are functioning at a very high level and do not need my assistance. And I was like, okay, fine. So that's what I feel right now. So I was hiring 2.5, Google Google 2.5, and I was using Google 2.5 for a very long time because we were using calibration documents, and we had this 1 million token context window. And that was the most important thing for me, is having this 1 million context window, because it gave us the opportunity to work with the machine longer, and it could learn from its what was happening for longer before I have to like re-upload these documents. Now suddenly we that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to stop using Google Gemini right away. On this end, we might still continue to use um, Gemini as the architect, but it looks like how much of this do we want to copy and paste? All right, it's doing all this stuff. Phase one. And phase two. Okay. It looks like this is going to let me copy all of it. I wonder what is stopping it when I'm trying to make copies. Whoa. All right. What's the first thing it says? Continue. Perfect. Implement missing. I think this plan section is causing a problem. This is a textbook example of a successful professional debugging session. The AI's performance here was outstanding. That's like weeks and weeks of frustration. And then you find out you're using the wrong tool. Well, at least, I mean, how do I explain this? Because of using Gemini 2.5 and having all those errors, we now have a situation where we do phase one intent and plan. The objective is to fix the data persistent bug prevent module task from being saved to the local storage and appearing in the task list. Suspected bug locations are here. The diagnostic plan, trace the data flow, verify the choose module data is being saved, check the whatever, ensure it's correctly reading the choose data, verify the task list rendering, identify specific failure points. Then you have a fix strategy. Once I identify where the data flow breaks, I'll implement the necessary corrections to ensure choose module data persists properly and appears in the task list. Then we go to phase two, grounding. Let me trace the data from the form submission to the task list. What is that? Is that here? Trace? Yeah, so this is called grounding. I can see the issue. The function is correctly implemented, but there's a mismatch between the task structure created by this. I found the bug. The issue is the data structure mismatch between this. The problem, the function creates tasks in this. Phase three, implement. Right. I need to fix this to create the task in the correct structure. Perfect. I've successfully fixed the data structure mismatch. Now let me continue with the remaining phases of the workflow. AI linter, pre-flight check. It's doing the AI linter test. Let me perform the static analysis of the code changes to ensure it's clean and error-free. Field mapping, change description, added data types, data format, data values, backward compatibility, no syntax errors. Phase 5, verification test. Now let me run the test suite to verify the bug works. The test is still failing, but I noticed that we're back to the same errors before. The task list element is not being found. This suggests there might be a deeper issue with how the task list HTML is loading or initializing. Let me investigate further. This should make the task list. No! So you go out, you hire a programmer, a developer is 2 times more expensive. And they're walking through all the plans. Look at this, I can do this, and I can do that, and like I'm so awesome and amazing. And then need to investigate why. I see the issue now. The problem is this. Verification result, partial success, data structure fixed, success achieved. Data structures mismatched fixed, choose module, redirect still working, task creation logic working, remaining issues identified. All right, now I'm not going to do everything. I'm just going to copy the last section. You can see what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get to. I'm always when I do these processes, I'm always trying to get to like a point of like, oh, we made a major milestone. We hit like something important. We can say that like we're succeeding. Something awesome happened. All right, I'm starting to slow down. Dreaming of breakfast. What are we going to do on Monday? I fell into the exact trap of your methodology is designed to prevent. I prioritized the plan over the process of scrutinizing. You're correct that I jumped ahead. I failed to properly apply today's critical devil's advocate principle. Thank you for holding the process accountable. My role is to facilitate your framework, not to declare the path forward. The objectives we listed are not foregone conclusions, they are hypotheses that we must now test with today's questions. You are right to choose module is useless with one option. Let's fix that now by defining our clear alternative scenarios based on your previous discussion. Define what are we going to do? What? Defining the scenarios for next week. For the choose module next week, let's formally consider two distinct competing scenarios for our immediate priority. The product first approach, this is what we've been calling objective one. The goal is to immediately launch the content and current MVP to focus all energy on securing the first 10 to 20 users for hands-on validation and feedback. Scenario B, the first content first approach. So the goal is to delay the product launch and focus all energy on the next 1 to 3 months of objective two. We would build an audience by creating and distributing content articles. The success is measured by audience growth, subscribers, views. A devil's advocate analysis. Now let's apply the devil's advocate. Scenario one, the critical flaw. As you pointed out, users' feedback cannot act. Getting user feedback we cannot act on due to slow development is a major flaw. It could lead to user frustration and churn. The MVP might be too narrow or buggy, creating a poor first impression and tarnish the brands before it even starts. Hidden assumptions. We're assuming that the product is good enough to be useful and not just frustrating. We're assuming that we can find 10 to 20 managers willing to invest their time into an unproven, non-public tool. We're assuming you, as a founder, have enough time to provide necessary hands-on on potential blockers. A critical bug in the app that stops the onboarding process dead. Inability of what is this? Potential blockers. Inability to find a list of qualified potential users. Receiving feedback. Okay, scenario B. This path generates no direct product feedback. We would build a large audience of people who are like, okay, hidden assumptions, potential blockers. Yeah, and those are not just the only two options because it seems like you are picking very specific scenarios. But if we go back to the very, very, very top, and let's think about some of the ideas that you had from day two. I remember on day two that you had like a whole list of different ideas, and I don't know why you have now decided to minimize those ideas to just a couple of objectives. For example, on Tuesday, you talked about the pillar one, the product and offering. You talked about a standalone SaaS app. You talked about the Intel Inside. You talked about the educator. You talked about the author. You talked about the diagnostic tool. Then you talked about the go-to market and marketing. You talked about the community-driven launch. You talked about content as a product. You talked about the Trojan horse strategy. You talked about the solve a micro problem. Then you started talking about business and revenue model. You talked about the SaaS subscription, licensing fees, the certification fees, one-time sales, and usage-based pricing. So you had talked about a lot of different things, and I don't see any of those ideas showing up in your current one scenario, two scenarios. Like, how many scenarios can you create if you combine these different ideas together? And then you consider, let's say that we have three teams, we have three separate teams. And these three teams, they're going to come into a meeting and they all have access to the same data. So they all have access to all of the data that you have created this week through our discussions. And the three teams are going to come up with three completely different options related to both what to launch as a product strategy and also what to launch as a marketing strategy. And so I want you to come up with like the best three, how three teams might come up with some strategies and what particular elements of the above conversation they might select to put into their general vision. Now, in this case, I just wanted to. All right. I'm going to get a little more background from our friend over at Claude Sonnet. Okay, so once it produces the final, the next prompt, then I think that we're going to be able to move forward. All right, here's my three teams, hopefully. A narrowly fields clinical. Okay, team A proposal. This team believes the fastest path to learning and long-term success is to get the actual product into the hands of the users as quickly as possible. Our strategy is to focus all our energy on the standalone SaaS app. We will execute the community-driven launch to secure our first 10 to 20 users acting as their hands-on consultants to ensure their success to succeed. This isn't just marketing, it's our core product development process. The business model is a classic SaaS subscription with a robust free tier to drive adoption. We believe validating the software itself is the most critical unknown, and we need to tackle it head on right now. Product, standalone SaaS app, go to market, community driven launch, revenue model, SaaS subscription, freemium. Team B. This team argues that the methodology is the real product, not the software. They believe that becoming the definitive authority on the framework first, all monetization opportunities, including software, become easier later. We propose content first strategy. For the next 3 to 6 months, we will ignore the SaaS app, focus on exclusively becoming the author and the educator. Our product will be a high quality YouTube series, a definitive ebook that teaches the 5 day framework. Go to market is content as the product, building a loyal audience that trusts our expertise. We will monetize initially through one-time sale of the ebook and the premium video course with the long-term goal of offering paid certification. The software is a future product that will build an audience already asking for a product. Okay. Team C. This team believes that building a brand acquiring individual users is a slow, expensive grind. They argue the fastest path to revenue distribution is leverage the platform and customers the other companies that other companies already have built. Our strategy, partnership first. We will not build our own app. Our product is a methodology itself packaged in an Intel Inside offering. Our go to market is the Trojan horse strategy. We will target mid tier project management tool and corporate consultancies, offering them our framework as a license feature to enhance their own product. That gives them a competitive advantage and gives us immediate distribution. Our entire business model is based on licensing fees and revenue sharing agreements. This avoids the cost of direct marketing development, focusing our efforts on the high value B2B sales. Product, the Intel Inside licensing partnership, go to market, Trojans. Okay, good. All right, so I think those are three really great ideas. Did you have any other teams that want to join the this event? So basically, yeah, next week we're gonna start jumping into the choose module. You created three different teams, but logically, maybe there are more teams that you could add. How many more teams would you like to add to the process for next week? All right, Cascade's response is better. Well, this is a big problem because if Claude is always getting better responses, then potentially it means having maybe we should have a Claude subscription. It used to have this thing where it would uh, it would create a plan, and then it would it would have to go back to Gemini to get approval for the plan before it would be able to move forward. It stopped doing that. Now, also, we have decided to not do the pro plan for now. So I think we're going to just close up liaison and architect from the previous versions. All right, we're starting to slow down. Stick with these three teams. Hypothetically, if you were going to add 2 more teams, what would they be? Team D seems allergic to complexity. They believe the fastest path to revenue and validation demand is to solve one small, painful problem for one time fee. They want to avoid long term commitments. Our strategy is to launch a micro product first. We will build only a diagnostic tool, a simple, elegant web app that helps managers analyze a single business objective, generates a comprehensive report for a one time. The team believes the true scale comes from empowering people, not just providing software. The strategy is to create an exclusive ecosystem of certified experts to become evangelists. We propose building a train the trainer ecosystem. Our core product is not software and is for the kid. It's actually interesting. This idea of the micro project. So imagine that you but the thing is that AI is I don't think AI is doing a good enough job that I would be willing to have this situation where somebody explains their situation. I don't know. This is interesting. Because you could actually have an AI. You could get a page and somebody it's like it could be like called the benchmark tool. The benchmark tool, or we could call it, I don't know, the business what do they call that thing? Do you have a business plan? Business plan generator. Just put in your business idea and then we're using our diagnostic tool, it will and then you could charge a certain amount of money and just explain the problem, and then there'll be some follow-up questions, and then after you answer all the follow-up questions you click enter, then it generates some kind of I mean you could do that for free with AI, but like some people they just you take something that people are already doing and then you just packaging it up and then it just makes people some people they just like to pay money, they just like to pay it, and they're like, hey, I paid $2 for this, paid $5 for this, man, this is really good stuff. And it's not like they're going to read it, they're just going to like put it in an email, and then it's going to increase their confidence that the information is good. Because if someone says, oh, I just went into ChatGPT and produced this, okay, yeah, well, I went to this specialized website and I paid $5, I spent $29, man. And anyways, this guy solved the problem yet. Oh, now they have a automatic continue button. Did you notice that? All right. Whoa, I forgot. I think I might have a meeting right now. Nope. Okay, let me just finish this up. Core bug fixes, new simpler bug identified. You're one small step away from completely green tasks. Can you believe it? I certainly can't. So that brings up another point, which is like, well, maybe Gemini is good for some. I don't know. Why would you even waste your time? Gemini 2.5 has now turned into a waste of time. That's what happened with this new Claude 4 Sonnet 4 upgrade. Why would you use? Who cares if it's cheaper? It messes up your code. Why would you pay a cheaper price for a problem? Would you pay me $2 for a solution or $1 for a problem? What? What do you mean? You're selling problems? Yeah. I mean, it tells you it's a solution. So you think you're buying a solution. It's $1. You think you're buying a solution because it says it's a solution. It's $1. But the reality is that you're buying a problem. So do you want a problem? No, no. I want the $1 solution. There's no such thing as a $1 solution. What do you mean? There's no such thing as a $1 solution? All right, we got an issue here. Exhausted, resource exhausted, encountering retriable error from the model provider. The rate limit exceeded for model. So I got a problem now with my cascade. All right, so I got a problem here because it looks like I'm getting kicked off for an hour. Exactly. You know how long I waited for this freaking thing to understand this? The brainstorm test is trying to download the JSON file before completing the journey while still on the brainstorm step 5, but the export controls are only available on pages with the sidebar like task list page HTML. Well, I don't know why it says only with like a sidebar. Complete the brainstorming journey, yes. Submit the final form, yes. Wait for the redirect to task list, yes. Then perform the expert validation. Exactly. Freak, that took so long. I can't believe it took so long to understand this. So what it's talking about is, for some reason, it doesn't understand. Now, I don't know why, because this is the sidebar. So the sidebar is actually on every page, or at least I think this is what it is. Anyways, you go to module page 5. Now, the issue is here is there's no export button here. You can complete the brainstorm. I don't think we actually completed the brainstorm. All right. All right. Well, I'm still a little bit confused. Well, I understand that we have teams, but the problem is I don't know what text I should be what text I should be entering into the brainstorm step 5 interfere page. It says there's like a box for your response where you're supposed to answer the question stem first, play the devil's advocate. So, what am I going to write in that response? Yeah, next week we're going to take these 3 teams and we're going to have each of the 3 teams work through the brainstorming together, and then as we work through the brainstorming, the 5 questions of the brainstorming uh, module, then we'll be able to go to the choose module afterward. So we're not actually going to do choose next week. We're going to go through the brainstorming module with our 3 teams, but I still need something to write in the box of the brainstorm. Could you help me out with that? Hmm. Interesting stuff. So we got 3 teams. What are the names of these teams? So another thing is, oops. All right, let's do it step by step. I'm just going to put that in there. All right, playing devil's advocate, we critically examined our primary strategic scenarios and identified significant potential point of failures. The product first approach carries the risk of frustrating early users if our development speed can't keep up with their feedback. The content first approach risks building an audience that loves the idea but never converts to software users. Finally, the partnership first approach risks leaving the successful dependent on the timelines and prioritizes their companies by acknowledging these core flaws and the hidden assumptions behind each path. We have now armed our 3 hypothetical teams with the key challenge they must solve as they begin for the full 5-day brainstorming cycle next week. Great. All right, so we completed the brainstorm. Now, what the issue in Windsurf is that there isn't a place where I can download this text. You actually have to go to the task list page, and then the task list page. Well, actually, not necessarily. There is an option on the modules page. Yeah, the question is, when I download this markdown file, export your decision-making session. Ah, interesting. I don't think there's a place where you can download the export. This is just exporting the task list. Well, I think that we should rethink this because I was just checking the website and I noticed that when you go through the brainstorming module, then on step 5, interfere, there is a button that says complete the brainstorm, but there is no button here to be able to download the files. Now, when I click the choose module, step 5, there is a button at the bottom. It says export your decision-making session, save your decision-making process for future reference or for sharing with your team. There's a button that says copy as markdown. There's another button that says copy. No, the second one says download JSON. And then when I click the last page of the choose module, then there's also a button that says No, sorry. That was the one I just explained, was the choose module. If we go into the last page of the objectives module, then we can see a button that says um, complete objectives, and then it says the next step is to create the task list. So it means that there's only two pages that currently allow you to download files. One of the pages where you can download the file is the choose module, step number 5. You can download, it looks like you can download your decision making session. I don't know if that also includes the text boxes from the brainstorming module. And then I can see that there is no way to currently download the brainstorming module as a single unit, and there's no way to download the objectives module as a single unit. And then when we go to the task list page, we can export the task list. It says to export your task list for the use in external project management tools. You can copy as a markdown file, download to JSON, or copy as CSV. So I think we should revisit the logic of how the application should work. And then we should ask Cascade to also go through the app and see if it also sees the same thing that we're seeing. And then to revisit how we are going to create the actual tests, and also how we're going to develop user journeys in the future to incorporate these different abilities so that people can make decisions such as only going through the brainstorming modules and then downloading the information. And then after going through the brainstorming module, also going through the brainstorming module and the choose module, and then being able to download all of that as one file, or just going into the choose module and going through the choose module and downloading only the result of the choose module. And then what happens when we get to the objectives module? Are we going to have the opportunity to download the results from the objectives module? And is that going to be connected to the choose module and also the brainstorming module? And then on the task list page, are we going to be able to download other information that we entered into in other sections of the app? So, I mean, it seems like our app isn't actually fully developed right now. And one of the problems that Cascade is having is understanding how a user would actually use the app. Okay. All right. So then I guess what we need to do is we need to add 3 columns to the Notion page, or we need to create a new page for this endeavor. And can you give me some instructions for how we might set up a Notion page, and then how we might use that Notion page in order to save data as we work with this information next week, and as we revisit the brainstorming module from the perspective of these 3 teams, and then also as we work through the choose module using the ideas from these 3 teams. And we need to, I mean, we can do a step-by-step process, but I'm just wondering what are the first steps so that we have the dashboard to enable us to be able to save information now that we have a lot of information that we need to save based on working with 3 teams and 3 different visions for how this company should move forward. Okay, it's getting better. Oops. I feel like today we made a real advancement with this whole business. And this is all thanks to Sonnet, Claude Sonnet 4. It just because I was in a doom loop with the Gemini 2.5 within windsurf. I'm not having problems with Gemini 2.5 outside of windsurf because I'm just using it as a planning tool. I'm not actually doing the software engineering. But inside of windsurf, the 2.5 Pro Gemini is not good. Strategic realignment, comprehensive application audit. You're absolutely right. We have been attempting to test features that were never. Whoa. This was what I was kind of hoping that would happen because I noticed that I got an email today from Windsurf. They said that you don't have to like send elements or you don't actually have to click these buttons anymore, that it can automatically read what's going on the page. All right, we have to end there. Which is a great place to end, I think. I think we have something really specific to focus on tomorrow or whenever we come back. Create a new Notion page, Project Arrowhead dashboard. All right, you can remove that. That was kind of crazy. Arrowhead. What are we doing? Turn this into a page. Click the page. There we go. Create the strategic database. This database will hold the core identity of 3 to 5 teams. The project type database. What the? All right, let's do this later. I gotta go. I gotta eat some lunch, and I think we did enough work for today. So let's do this another day. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time.